Sevilla are through once again to the Europa League finals, and in the wake, they have left Man United. A very, very heartbreaking result for all four panelists over here today. Uh, of course, a tough one to digest, especially. And I'm going to come to you, actually, Annie, to start off with this. And it's the lack of finishing that, really ruined United's chances, which is why it makes it so heartbreaking.
Yeah, 100%. And the reason it's more disappointing than any other time would be because this attack has been the positive light for United fans after the lockdown. Greenwood coming into himself. Yes, Rashford has been struggling, but no one really blames him. We know it was a very serious injury. He carried the club when the club were in a very bad position, before the lockdown itself. Martial for me was the letdown because he tried so hard. He tried so hard, but genuinely his finishing was off. It wasn't the keeper made those two great saves. Any side, and that's all you have to do. But no, he did right at the keeper both those occasions. It was a bit of a letdown for me. Martial was really looking forward to him standing up in this game and getting two, three goals. Did not happen. Um, and before I go into like a defensive lapse of sort, I also want to say Bruno Fernandes did kind of lose his cool before the second goal itself. He wasn't to his best at what we've seen him do. His passes were going all over the place. He wasn't getting time on the ball. When he was getting time on the ball, he wasn't just looking up. I felt there were so many runs that Rashford did make, which Bruno did not pick up at all. So I would also place blame on Bruno.
Interesting one because I mean, at least for me, I thought Bruno was the one who was trying, but I think at times he was probably trying a bit too much. He wasn't patient enough, which might have been needed. Prasham, Annie just barely touched upon the defensive lapses, and I think that's in the end for me a huge one, even tactically, because we knew that Sevilla are going to come from the wings, and that's where the goals came from. But we still didn't shut it out, and it was down to concentration lapses. What do you think?
Uh, Karan, absolutely agree, man. Like, I mean, I would say that the sharpness was not there. Like, I agree with you in terms of that Bruno Fernandes was trying a lot, so was Paul Pogba, but the sharpness was lacking, and that showed in the defense as well. I mean, Aaron Wan-Bissaka left his man free too often. He wasn't marking well enough. Brandon Williams just yet is not a left back. He's a left wing back. I he really needs to work on his defending. There's a huge learning curve ahead of him, and it didn't help, of course, that the Sevilla guys were basically kicking the shit out of him. Like, I don't understand how some of those things were flying and how the ref didn't blow fouls on that. As an 18-year-old, I imagine that would shake his confidence, and that's where I feel at about 65, 66 minutes, Ole should have pulled him off and brought in Fosu Mensah, or once we conceded, at least brought in someone more attacking. But besides the point, I think I don't know what Victor Lindelof does. I really don't understand. The problem with Lindelof is that okay, he can't head the ball. I know everyone knows that. But the problem is he can't even anticipate where the ball is going to end up when it comes in from the wings. His anticipation is so bad that he doesn't know what's going to happen. Like in the second goal, okay, Maguire was not there, but the ball is there, like it's in front of him. I'm looking at looking at it on the television. I'm like, bro, move, what are you doing, move. And no, he's just not. He refuses to move. He waits for the ball to go all the way through, and then we see what happens. It's a goal. For the first goal, the same thing. I mean, Maguire was practicing no look defending. He was looking somewhere else. The ball's whipped in. He's not
Yeah.
seen what's happened. Brandon Williams, if you see that goal, he's run, he's taken a circle, and then he's gone to his man. So he's not aware of where the attacker is. So the lack of awareness, the lack
I
of
I
concentration,
think Prasham,
it's
if I to
all lack of
sum,
stuff.
I can sum up Prasham's frustration, right? Lindelof, the same thing he did against the Giroud in the semi-final, which is why Lindelof looks even guiltier in the second goal of Sevilla because he just switched off on both those goals and at very crucial times, right? Maguire definitely has to carry bulk of the blame, not just as the centre back partner, but also as a captain. But I myself, giving him so much credit over the season, would say Lindelof has to take a blame. But for me, the fullbacks were bigger culprits than that. Abhishek, I don't know. I mean,
Absolutely.
There is
Yeah,
just
I
no communication in our back five. Not once did I see David De Gea trying to sort his defenders out. Not once did I see Harry Maguire trying to just take a step back, look at the game, read what's going on, look at Sevilla's movements. None of that happened last night. Everyone had their own defensive agendas. In fact, the second goal, if you just watch again, it was 4-on-2. Two Sevilla attackers versus four United defenders. And they still scored. That too, Luke de Jong had three defenders on him. You had Maguire, Lindelof, and Williams on him, and he still managed to score. Just defensive lapses. And as much as I want to blame uh, United's forward line for not really converting their chances and for not really We should have scored 6 last night. As much as I want to blame them, I think this kind of defending this is what you deserve for this kind of defending. And I thought Rio Ferdinand summed it up very well, Karan. He said, if you don't defend, you will concede. And last night, United didn't defend.
Yeah.
Yep, I think it's spot on. And another thing that, Abby, I know that you've especially been mentioning from the lockdown a lot of time is the lack of depth that this United squad have. A big problem that United fans have had from meaningful squad. Big problem that United fans have from last night is substitutions. First substitute only came at the 87th minute. But I'm going to ask you here, is this then also a problem with the lack of meaningful squad depth? This only have this thing that, I'd rather give the 11 on the field a chance, or do I bring these people on? Where is that conundrum coming in? How do you see it getting solved?
That's exactly what happened. You said it.
Yesterday.
Abby, if you mind, can I say my point, because I kind of get what Abby's saying, and I agreed with his tweet earlier. But where I see it as Kern is, I get it. Yes, you said what you said, but just try it, right? If you are playing that 11 and you have these guys on your bench, just try it. It's a cup game. Cup games are built on. You've seen your Lingard do this in the past. Why don't you just try it? Somewhere as a manager, I want him to see him grow. That's it. And what I would say to this is just simple, that this is the defense you get. This is what you are going to have next season when you finish 3rd or 4th. You have additions. Additions are needed to the squad to take it to the next level. Or else, this is why I said I am disappointed but not surprised with last night's result, because this is what I expect from the squad we have. Abhishek, sorry, you can go ahead.
No, so I've been saying this from day one, right? Ollie's hands are tied. The reason why he plays his best 11 till the 87th minute is because he can't bring on anyone else in the 60th minute. You can't. Okay, hypothetically, we have Juan Mata sitting with us sitting with us today, and it really pisses me off, because when you have a team like Manchester United right now, even when we were leading 1-0, even when we were 1-1, let's say 65th minute, 70th minute, 1-1, who do you bring on to win the game? You're going to bring off Rashford. You're going to bring off Mason Greenwood for Juan Mata, for Ighalo, for Daniel James. These are match winners for you in a cup semi-final. They're not. They're Carling Cup, Carabao, FA Cup, Community Shield, at best winners against a Wolverhampton or a championship side that's done well. Against the Sevilla side, who we all spoke about it yesterday. We can't underestimate them. They had a very good game. Yes, their defending was worldly. Their goalkeeper had a bloody worldly again against United. But who do you bring? If you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you're going to bring off Anthony Martial because he's getting kicked off too much for Odi and Ighalo? What do? You play your best 11. I'm not saying Ollie's playing his best 11 because he wants to. It's because he has no other choice.
But has no other choice. I'll just say this again. Luke de Jong is not the greatest player in the world. He's a flop himself. He came on.
The Newcastle United flop.
That's what I'm telling you. But the manager inspired him. He came on. He took his chance. I get your point. Martial shouldn't have come off. Rashford was poor all game. When a player is that poor, you take him
Exactly.
off.
If you have Saul Niguez, if you have Jack Grealish, if you have Jadon Sancho, I can understand you wanting to bring them off. But when you have Daniel James, when you have Juan Mata, who are you going to bring off to play against?
One second. I'm going to ask both of you. Okay, guys. I think we're at an impasse here, and Prasham has not been able to speak. He's been dying to. Prasham, please, I'll let you take over here.
I think, Abby, I completely agree with you that these guys are not good enough for Manchester United, and let alone a semi-final. But as a manager, Ole has to have a plan B. What happened when we went 1-1, when it became 1-1, or when we went 2-1 down? What was the plan B? We were yet trying the same thing. Paul Pogba was holding on to the ball 5, 6, 7 touches, not moving it on. Maguire was holding on to the ball like we were 2-1 up. We need to have a plan B. And Odion Ighalo was brought in for that reason, right? He was that hold-up play kind of player. So why not move to a 4-4-2 where Martial runs off Ighalo? Why not do something like that? Why not get a Dan James on a little earlier where he can run behind the defense? Because that wasn't happening. Mason Greenwood, he had a very average game yesterday. So even if you're continuing to have very average games, if your 11 is not working, if you're not going to bring on your substitutes and try something new, it's never going to work out. You're never going to have...
11 is not working, I feel, it's a statement in hindsight. When we were watching the game, there was a point when we thought we should have been 6-1 up. There was a point when we thought we should have just been 6-1 up. So, Prashant, when you're the manager standing, so after going 2-1 down, last 10 minutes, according to me, and when we did the preview, I said, if Sevilla get the lead against us, we're not winning the game. If they get a lead on us, we're not winning the game. I said that straight up because we don't have the firepower to unlock, let alone in the 80th minute when our boys have been absolutely run to the ground. Even Sevilla looked completely knackered. It's not like they were way better than us. They looked knackered. My point is, Prashant, when you're the manager, when you're always standing at the touchline, and when you can see your players badgering and badgering, knocking on the door, just not finishing. They were just not finishing. What reason do you have to bring these players off? Because Oli is
No, but
thinking, you know
Abby,
what,
but
ek
Abby,
jayega, one will go inside.
no, but Abby, Rashford was not part of the people who were knocking on the door. That is my point. And again, we were knocking on the door, but we were knocking only for the first 25 minutes of the second half. After that, it was not like we were getting a lot of chances. It was those 3-4 chances we got in a row. After that, it died down.
Okay.
The problem is that there is a
Also,
lack
okay.
of attacking variability.
See,
That
see, see, very-
Okay,
variation in
guys,
attack
I'm
is
just going to sum
very-
this up.
yeah,
Guys,
yeah, sum it up.
I'm just going to sum this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sum this up now. I think there's basically two views to this here. First is that unfortunately, right now we only have the likes of Mason Greenwood, Rashford, Martial, Bruno who can get us those goals. And as a United fan, as a manager, I would want to ideally leave them on there because I know that's where the magic will come from and not from the option that I have on the bench. Having said that, when it's down to 70, 75 minutes and it's not coming, then you have to take a risk with what you do have. You have to inspire them in some way. You have to have that plan B and not leave it until the 87th
Also,
minute.
Kern, I understand if
hopefully now-
Rashford,
yeah.
sorry, Kern, if Rashford cannot go off because he was the best player, I understand. Greenwood has been great, but he's not unsubbable. You can bring on Dan James or Greenwood or a Lingard for him. He's not a bad game. He's a kid. You don't make him that undroppable
So
guy.
which is see, which is what I'm saying, that even though you know the magic will come, like Greenwood can give you that magic where you give him one clear shot and he'll get you that goal. You're not very sure if it's coming on at this point, then you make that sub, right? You make that switch, you bring the other one in. But I think that's we can go on and on about the United game. Everyone is just still heated. It shows how much this game meant for United fans, right? It showed how much it did mean for us, everything considered. There's a big summer ahead now. There needs to be a lot of spending done to get these options now on your bench to be able to come off and make the difference. And that's another whole video that we will go on. That's the wrap up from the United Sevilla game. Sevilla now will go on to face the winner of Inter Milan and Shakhtar Donetsk. Inter Milan arguably are in a rebuild of their own, right? They haven't won a trophy for 7 years. They are finally, after so many years of having barely any impression on the Serie A, finished second. They are performing now. Lukaku is the striker at Inter that we wanted here. Getting all those goals. Prasham, I'm going to ask you this Lukaku that we've seen that we wanted at us. Do you think it's enough for him at Inter now to go on and win it for them?
No, man. I mean, this is the Lukaku we had at Man United. This is the exact Lukaku we had at Man United. He'd score the most irrelevant goals and then go missing in the most important game. This is the exact Lukaku. If you saw Inter Milan's game against Juventus, Lukaku goes missing. That is the game they needed him the most. He goes missing. Lukaku, this is what he does. After 1-0, Inter Milan are up, Lukaku will score the second goal. This is what exactly he does. He needs 15 chances to score one goal, and at Inter Milan,
Ashram, isn't that exactly what United need right now? After we go 1-0, bring a Lukaku to just shut the game out.
Yeah, but 75 million.
Not something you'd mention for a centre forward.
Let's be out of United. Let's focus on this game. Come on, Prashant.
Yeah, but this is exactly the look. I mean, he's in good form and all that, but essentially Antonio Conte came to England and he was in for a yard sale and took everyone that was available and went to Italy. Now he's going to take Smalling as well. Essentially came for a recruiting process to England. And if you're rebuilding a team, you can't rebuild a team around the likes of people who are in their last half of their career, in Ashley Young, Eriksen, Alexis Sanchez. These guys are in the last half of their career, and to be honest, Shakhtar might beat Inter tonight, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Really interesting comment from Prasham there, thinking that Shakhtar might get one over Inter. And I'm going to ask you, Inter have looked rejuvenated recently. They've lost only one of their 13 games since restart. Do you actually think that Shakhtar can do one over them, or Inter have shown enough to go through? They are favourites for the Europa League in general now, aren't they?
So Inter before the lockdown were favourites for the Europa League, even over Manchester United. United weren't even in contention for it for a reason. After that, the odds did change around. Sevilla being 5 times winners, themselves had that history going into them. That just you show up in the final and just win it. It's a one game. It's a knockout, right? But looking at the Sevilla we saw against United, if that Sevilla shows up against an Inter, assuming that they were to go, I don't see Inter as those favourites anymore. Although why I would still say that if Shakhtar show up with some determination in them, they can beat this Inter side, because Lukaku has been scoring goals, but has definitely not been scoring those goals which I think will win them the spot in the final. Eriksen hasn't been the best. Okay, Eriksen has joined them. He hasn't been the best himself. Sanchez has been picking up form, has been doing good for them, and has got about 8-9 assists quickly in, but carried a small niggle himself. It's not a well-oiled side like we really see it. They were doing well, but now they have their own issues, right? For me, yes, Inter, if they get that early goal in, onus on Shakhtar, difficult. But if Shakhtar see out the first 25-30 minutes, it could be a very open game, and Shakhtar have the pace in them to break a stubborn Italian defense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think very interesting one there because you mentioned that Inter are still figuring out their play, right? Whereas Shakhtar on the other end are a well-bound unit. This side has been playing together for a while. Heavy South American influence in this side, which is good to see. It comes through in their football as well. They themselves have a high-scoring striker. He's had his Junior Moraes has he's turned 33. But he's scored 20. He scored 25 in the season before. He scored 24 now. He's scored a lot in the Europa League and all in the knockout stage. So he's in some form itself. Abhi, I'm just going to quickly wrap this up and ask you, what do you make? So one has said, they're sort of given their divided opinions on it. Do you think Shakhtar are going to take this, or are you also of the belief that it's Inter's?
Yeah, I think Inter will take it. Conte's come out and said that Shakhtar will be their toughest opposition in the Europa League so far. They've played Leverkusen and one more, which is fair because Shakhtar have done well to come to the semis. But I think Inter just about have the firepower to get through the Shakhtar side. And in fact, if they were to play Sevilla in the final, I think Inter will actually do 2-1 over Sevilla and win this Europa League if they were to progress.
So quick predictions for Inter versus Shakhtar then, Abhi?
2-1.
Yeah, Ani?
2-1 or 3-1?
I know Abhi said 2-1 to Inter. You are 2-1 or 3-1 to who? Ani?
To Inter.
Okay, Prashant.
4-2 to Shakhtar.
I had a feeling he's going to say 4 to Shakhtar.
Yeah, tilter. Just a tilter.
No, the only reason why I say this is because if you look at Shakhtar's games this season, even in the Ukrainian Premier League and in the Europa League, they score goals at will. And Inter is not the best defense. It's average at best.
All right, interesting takes there on both the games. We had a huge, passionate debate about the United versus Sevilla one, where everyone seemed to disagree and agree at the same point. Most of the hosts are going for Inter to beat Shakhtar tonight, but Prasham says a 4-2 to Shakhtar, so that'll clearly be a great game to watch. Thank you guys for once again tuning in. Hit the subscribe button. We're seeing that lots of you are watching the videos, but the subscribe button isn't being hit by 53% of you. Yes, we're seeing the stats. Hit the subscribe button, see all the videos that are coming out, and we'll see you in the next one.